This world wasn't always so small and petty. Thousands of years ago, while the rest of men prayed to gods, the Valyrians became them. Through magic or sheer will, they mastered the greatest creatures in history. A horse grants man dominion over the land, a ship over the sea. But dragons gave us the sky, and everything and everyone beneath it. At its height, my ancestors ruled the known world. Whatever parts we didn't weren't worth knowing. Our capital of Valyria shamed the magnificent cities of the east, for hammers and chisels were no match for dragon fire and sorcery. It was a city and an empire built to last until the end of time. It didn't. 400 years ago, the doom fell on Valyria. Mountains cracked open like eggs, lakes and rivers boiled, fountains of fire, ash and smoke spewed from the ground, so high and so hot that even dragons burned in flight. The land splintered, and the angry sea rushed in. In hours, the greatest city in history became history. But my ancestors didn't burn or drown with the rest of their race. 12 years before the doom, despite the sneers of his rivals, Aenar Targaryen abandoned the capital with his family. Legends claim that his daughter foresaw the destruction of the city in a dream. More likely, Aenar met with some mishap at court and chose exile over execution. He and House Targaryen slinked away to a dreary, remote, god-forsaken island. Forsaken no longer. With arts now lost to the world, we transformed a tiny outpost into Dragonstone, a fortress fit for the last dragon lords. Then Aenar's descendants settled into it like a tomb for their lost homeland. Until Aegon. When he looked east, he saw the past, old, tired, dead. But when he looked west, he saw the future. Gold in the ground, gold in the fields, and no dragons in the sky but his. He and his sisters, Rhaenys and Visenya, flew over the great continent, ostensibly visitors to a strange land. But when Aegon returned, he ordered construction of a massive table carved in the shape of Westeros, with all the notable rivers and mountains that they had seen. A personal map of the Seven Kingdoms, then ruled by 7 squabbling families. House Durrandon held the Stormlands from their seat at Storm's End, due south of Dragonstone. House Hora of the Iron Islands had also conquered and enslaved the Riverlands, and ruled them from Harrenhal, a monstrous castle rising on the shore of the God's Eye. House Stark held the frozen wasteland of the north, the oldest, largest, and emptiest of the kingdoms. House Lannister held the Westerlands, the wealthiest kingdom, thanks to their gold mines. House Gardner held the Reach, the second wealthiest kingdom, thanks to their crops. House Arryn held the Vale, or rather the Vale held them. The mountains were impassable except through the Bloody Gate, which had never been taken. House Martell held the deserts of Dorne, probably because no one else wanted them. Together, the 7 kingdoms made Westeros, a realm that wasn't yet a realm, ruled by great families who didn't know what greatness was. Aegon would teach them.
What is up, YouTube, and welcome to this Game of Thrones video. So if you're new to the channel, a like and a subscribe is super appreciated. If you're new to the channel and you did enjoy this video, please also do click that bell button to get notifications. So the Game of Thrones Blu-ray is, or has had, a release date and a cover, and the cover of this Blu-ray is looking absolutely dope. So as you saw before, it is got a really cool kind of prequel thing with it. So the Blu-ray is out on the 12th of December. I'm not sure if that's worldwide, but it might be, because I think Blu-rays usually do come out on the same day worldwide. Or I think we had to wait a bit for Wonder Woman here in the UK. But the special features look absolutely amazing, and the best thing here is this Targaryen prequel series which we're going to get. So you've just seen the first kind of 4 minutes, the first sort of episode of this 45-minute long thing, which is going to be giving us the insight into the Seven Kingdoms War. So it's the conquest of Aegon Targaryen, which we will be seeing. And we saw, albeit animated, we saw the kingdom, or the freehold of Valyria, which is where the Targaryens came from. But the family of the Targaryens, and we had Aenys Targaryen, his daughter actually prophesied the doom that was to come to Valyria when they moved to Dragonmount, later Dragonstone. And then this is where this conquest started, all because Aegon got a bit tired and wanted to take over absolutely everything. He wanted to control the kingdoms. It's pretty cool. This is where we saw the table be created, and that's what we saw in Season 8 as well. So it's really neat that we got to see all of that together, which is pretty awesome. And this is a really, really cool thing to see. Now, the prequel is going to really focus on the conquest and the war for the Seven Kingdoms, which, by rightly, it should do so. But when I was watching the start of this, I thought we would see more of Valyria, which is something which I really want to see more of. We hear of it quite a lot. We also saw it briefly in the show as well. I think we saw the ruins when Jorah and Tyrion were riding down. They were on their way, and we've heard of it in hushed tones. And it's something which I would love to explore a lot more and learn just what happened to that city. Maybe we can have our own sort of kind of Krypton episode, or Krypton show, where Krypton is the kind of prequel show to Man of Steel that we're getting on Sci-Fi. I believe it's later this year, or it might be early next year, and this is exploring Krypton before the fall and before Superman lands on Earth. So we could see that. It would be nice to see a show set before this cataclysmic event. But maybe part of that, the problem is the fact that we won't really kind of get attached to these characters, because we know they probably will all. But what would be cool is to see more of this world. So this will really just focus on the conquest, and it is only about 45 minutes long, so it's not too long to get really bogged down into depth, and we will really simply just see what happened and kind of sort of like the cliff notes of the conquest. We'll briefly see, just like we saw with this, each part may have its own focus. Maybe we'll have each one focus on different houses, because not every one of the houses actually fought against Aegon. They actually decided, you know what, we're going to ally with you. So we're going to help you out because, well, it's probably a lot of really in their interest to help them out. It's quite similar to the Battle of Hastings, or the William the Conqueror invasion of Britain. So it's quite similar to that, where it was a very decisive attack and everything like that. So it's I like that kind of, that parallel there. So I really do think this is going to be a lot of fun to see where this will actually go. So this will be Aegon and his two sisters taking on everything, taking on the world for their family's glory, which, you know what, is going to be very curious to see just how they took over all of these kingdoms. But what I think would have been a lot more interesting as well is seeing the Targaryens originally, where they came from, what this world was, because we never really see or learn much of outside of Westeros. I know we had Daenerys chapters in the books, we had her scenes in the show, but we never really see what the world is with just as a wider circle, because we only ever really see the Westeros story, which is quite similar to, if you've watched the Lord of the Rings movies, we learn of people from the East. We only really learn of Middle Earth and watch Middle Earth, and I would always like to see where these people have come from, which I know they're in the books, but this is just an example of me saying that it would be nice to see and learn more of everything that goes on in the wider world, because Westeros is simply just a continent. There's a hell of a lot more to actually explore, and there's a lot more to the east of the Free Cities, at least, and everything like that. So there's a lot more of this world to explore than originally there actually is. And the Valyria was really one of the freeholds, and we've still got the Free Cities, we've got everything else to really look at, which I think would be a good kind of prequel canon fodder for this. But I expect that the prequels that we're going to be getting, so we're going to be getting at least about 5 different prequels for Game of Thrones, or not even prequels, but kind of spin-offs. So I'd say prequels is the wrong word to use for them. I think that we're going to be getting kind of spin-offs or successor shows, as George R.R. Martin has said. He prefers them to actually be called successor shows. So he wants these to be thought of as their own kind of thing and their own show, which kind of makes me think that we might explore something that isn't in Westeros, which is what he said. He said that we may not actually have one of these shows actually in Westeros, which is why I think that we might see more of these Free Cities. Now, one thing we could actually see is possibly the Blackfire Rebellion, which was an offshoot of House Targaryen trying to usurp the current king. And then later on, we also had the War of the Ninepenny Kings as well. So this War of the Ninepenny Kings and that's finally put down that Blackfire family, that offshoot, and that really was a decisive battle for the Targaryens. So I hope that we see more of the Targaryens in these prequels. Now, Robert's Rebellion and also Dunk and Egg have been sort of shot down by George R.R. Martin as potential storylines. I guess we've heard a lot about the Rebellion, and I think in Season 8 we might see more of how this went down if we see more of Rhaegar Targaryen. So we may see more of him, and we may learn more about this Rebellion a lot more in depth, which is why a prequel or a spin-off show may not actually be needed. So I think there's quite a lot we can actually really look at, and we could learn more about the Starks. We could have possibly as well another show that we could actually have is possibly the Rebellion by the Iron Islands. That would be a fun story to see. Just anything really that we could look at. Maybe something set with Mance Rayder, how he united all of the wildlings together. I think that would be a fun little story as well. So let me know what you think in the comments. I want to hear what you think. I want to know what kind of offshoots you want to see. What prequels, what sequels as well. Obviously, we can't really talk sequels just yet, but we can talk spin-offs and more, and we can talk of kind of breaking out Game of Thrones into an absolute franchise. So the Game of Thrones show could simply just be the start of a franchise with more to come. So let me know what you think. Please do drop a like. Please do drop some comments as well. Let me know what Game of Thrones videos you want me to break out and make. And I'll see you soon, and goodbye. Tell someone you love them.